One of the letters that Fuller Callaway wrote to Neil Reed, the architect with Hintz, Adler and Reed, the firm that built this house, he said, and this is a direct quote, "I've lived in secondhand houses my whole life, and I want to build a house that my wife can really enjoy." And so he instructed them to build a house that would complement the beautiful gardens that were already here. It was designed to be long and skinny, and all the rooms off to the south have a beautiful view of the gardens.
The Farrell Gardens were created in 1841. The house that these gardens deserve was completed in 1916.
I think Neil Reed must have been at his prime. It shows, his education shows, his quality shows in the absolute beauty of the overall architectural house, of the design.
I'm standing in front of a portrait of Ida Cason Callaway. And in reality, this house was built for her. For their 25th wedding anniversary, this was her gift. Very nice gift.
After 82 years of family ownership and occupancy, the estate was given by Mr. and Mrs. Fuller Callaway Jr. to Fuller E. Callaway Foundation, with a request that it be used for the enjoyment and instruction of the visiting public. But time takes its toll on any man-made structure, even one built to 1916 state-of-the-art standards, and loved and cared for by 2 generations of the Callaway family. So, a team of preservation and restoration specialists were selected to provide a carefully planned blend of preservation and renovation, which began in 2008.
Preservation, I think, is the least intrusive. Renovation is a necessity to bring things up to a standard and freshen them.
After nearly a year of planning, all furnishings were cataloged, carefully packed, and placed in temperature and humidity-controlled storage.
The most difficult element in the restoration, I believe, was trying to do the work that needed to be done without doing damage to the house.
By and large, human erosion that occurs while the house is open on tour, that's not much of an issue. But when you take an artifact and just pick it up and move it to another room, your chance of doing real and permanent damage increases exponentially.
Probably the most important element of a project like this at Hills and Dales, where you're trying to preserve the building but also integrate new systems, is trying to design those systems in such a way that they don't take away from the historic fabric you're trying to preserve.
Preserving and protecting the house from lightning and fire were major elements of its original design.
We know that Mr. Callaway, when he built the home back in 1915, 1916, was concerned about the risk of fire because he included in the home built-in fire hoses, beautiful chrome nozzles, and set in such a way that you could just pull the lever and pull out up to 50 feet of fire hose. And I think that was really state-of-the-art.
Today, however, state-of-the-art is a very sophisticated, concealed system of sprinklers that has double interlock protection. We also have a highly sensitive smoke detection system that can detect very small changes in air quality.
We're providing museum-level humidity and temperature controls throughout the entire house.
We're going to control 27 locations in a house that is 22,000 square feet of living space.
And no detail was overlooked.
The sprinkler heads will all be factory coated, painted, powder coated, probably at a Pacific color that Carlton's pick out with the designers.
The ductwork was almost a nightmare because there's very little space to run things in the attics, and you can't damage the house.
So you would have to study 3 or 4 different ways to get a pipe from point A to point B and weigh the pros and cons of each location and how you would get there with minimal alteration to the building.
Many solutions brought additional challenges, such as removing these panels without damaging them.
Chip rather figured out the solvent that softened the old hide glue and figured out what they used. So we managed to we just injected Windex all over it and kept putting it in and putting little shims in it. Would pull it out a little further so we could get more glue in it. Finally softened up the original adhesive, and then we could take the trim off and then cut the blocking that was holding it in place.
We have one situation where we were actually running pipes up underneath an old stairway, and we had to remove the panels from the stairway and run the pipes up behind those panels so that they're visible to our guest. That's kind of challenging, is adapting a modern system to an old building.
Grand stairs is a perfect example where we're able to remove panels, run sprinkler lines and air sampling lines to a designated area, and then terminate them at that area, and then put all the panels back, and then when you walk in, it looks like nothing's ever been done.
The air handling controllers are all computer controlled digitally from a desktop computer located in the basement. It's all internet accessible.
The basement posed an even bigger problem than the attics.
Rocks, stones, roots, stumps, everything was left under the house, and nothing had ever been taken out since the house had been built.
We wound up excavating, I think, about 18 inches of soil in various places to get our equipment in place. We had to take out a little bit more to provide access to the various equipment, and every bit of that was hand dug with a bucket and a shovel.
Every floor in the house presented new challenges.
I think their hardest challenge was taking those fireplace mantles off that were solid plaster, detaching them from the wall, crating them up without breaking them, taking them to Atlanta, stripping umpteen layers of paint off of them, and then bringing them back.
And then I spent about 3 weeks with dental tools and stripper removing all the layers of paint so that you could see the detail again. And so then we put them back the same way that they were put back originally. We used plaster and rope and wire and stuck them to the wall the same way they had in 1916.
We were actually told that they would love to have these windows where they would be operable again. Most of them had not gone up and down in years. So we actually pulled all these windows out and put in temporary window sashes. We carried those windows to my shop and we stripped all the glazing out of them, and they just really went through an extensive renovation. Sash cords were put on all of the windows, and all the window weights were hooked back up so they're all operable now. Really a big feat.
Replacing some plaster was necessary. However, in many areas of the house, meticulous repair work was the answer.
Sanitas, of course, is plaster's best friend. It's a canvas material that covers the plaster and keeps cracks from showing through quite so much. And quite some time ago, I developed a method for introducing that material into the void space where perhaps the Sanitas had separated from the plaster, and then using a tacking iron and some care, being able to get it to lay flat and be attached to the plaster again.
Determining paint colors posed another set of challenges.
The restoration guys had been in before us, and they had actually done some color research work where they sanded down through the layers of paint that was on the trim there, and they could determine how many times that had been painted and roughly the time period that it was a certain color. But you also have the challenge of matching the sheen that may have dulled down, over the past 20 years.
I would have to say that the people here at Hills and Dales are among the few that we deal with who honestly want to understand what preservation principles we are applying when we do suggest a method of repair or of remediation.
Some exterior painting and repairs were needed, and the lightning protection system was installed. Decorative hardware throughout the house was cleaned, and old fixtures in storage were rewired and installed on the second floor.
Yeah, we took down 3 large chandeliers today. We took one in the dining room, one in the music room, and one in the library. The dining room and the library were both heavy bronze chandeliers with no crystal, but ornate casting, and one of them has silver plating on it. They're very similar in style, but one is slightly larger than the other. We also had to take those completely apart to get them down safely. So we took starting at the bottom, we took the lower pieces off, and those chandeliers are 2 tiers, meaning they have a lower tier of 12 arms with lights on each arm, and then they have a second tier with 6. So we took the lower 12 arms off completely. That left a very small upper portion that was easy to get down safely.
All historic rugs and carpets were cleaned, And in some locations, badly worn carpet was replaced with authentic duplications. Important paintings were conserved, with impressive results. And textiles throughout the house were cleaned.
Nothing on the first floor has been changed. No colors, nothing whatsoever. The second and third floor needed some updating, so I helped Carlton in choosing colors for the room, reproducing the wallpapers and also carpets for the rooms.
This charming nursery wallpaper was reproduced, utilizing archival photographs. And this wallpaper was reproduced, based on undamaged sections of the 1950s paper, and furnished to recreate this 1962 photo of Mr. Callaway's room.
The Callaway family kept extensive records. We have most of the original receipts from when the home was built. So that sometimes helps you with your detective work, trying to figure out what happened in each room, or is this hardware original, or how was the furniture in this room arranged, or what type of furniture was in this room. And you sometimes can see also from the photographs where things have moved around the home. I guess what's unique about it is that we actually tackled all of those things at one time.
Put in a new lighting system and a generator. They fixed it so if they lose power, the whole house will still be on. Well, this house, even though it was built in 1916, it was in conduit, which is in pipe. The most difficult element was pulling the old existing wire out and putting new wire in. Although it came out fairly easy, we were worried about that mainly. They left those panels because they could go through it and they could say, well, this is the way it used to be. And now they can open it up and see, now this is the way it is now. So
there was probably 1/8 of an inch or more of wax on the floors, so we've had to go in there with an ammonia solution and remove the wax down to bare linoleum and bare marble.
A lot of hard work restored the original luster of the Palm Room's marble and the kitchen's 1940s linoleum.
There are 2 sets of steps to get to the 3rd floor. Most of our visitors make it up those steps, and it's worth it.
We're very excited about opening the 2nd and 3rd floor. Of course, people have always, when they come on a tour, they always want to see 2nd and 3rd floors. They want to see where the people really lived, where they slept.
There's a very quaint bedroom at the top of the steps that the architect titled Servant's Bedroom. It's beautiful, very cozy.
There are dormers, there are 2 dormers in that room. And as a result, the dormers result in the ceiling being sloped. And it just kind of encloses you and gives you a sense of comfort. It's a real warm feeling room, and it's got a ivy wallpaper on it. And just those dormers and the nice light coming in through there, and the fact that the ceiling's not just flat, but actually slopes in and has those dormered sides is really a beautiful room. It's a very intimate feeling room.
And then a whole line of cedar-lined closets and a wonderful game room that's built on the order of an English pub.
And it's a large room with kind of a burnt red carpet, but it has lots of natural light and a big oval window. You can see out over the property through those windows. It gives you a beautiful view, and you're sitting up on the very top of the house with an original 1916 billiard room table in there, and it's just really a beautiful room.
Anywhere you look in this house, you find something remarkable.
Probably my favorite room in the entire house is the linen closet. And I know that sounds strange, but it's a beautiful little room. You kind of feel like you're stepping back in time when you go in the linen closet.
I think if I just had to, off the top of my head, I would have to say the palm room. There's a lot of subtle complexity in that room as you start to look around.
My favorite room would probably be the dining room plaster ceiling. It's hard to believe that that's a solid plaster ceiling. There's no wood at all involved in that, and the detail is incredible.
They're all my favorite rooms. It's like asking which is your favorite child, because they're all different.
The whole thing's beautiful, and there's also a joy in this house. There's a playfulness in his architecture, because you enter this beautiful rotunda, tall column front porch. You enter into a barrel hallway, and then we come into this paneled library, and then we have the beautiful French music room cabinet, and then we have a beam and timber living room, just a grandiose stairway and grand living room. And each space takes a different nature, and each space is unexpected. And then you go into the Italianate dining room with silk wall covering, and it's such a joy. And then next thing you know, you pop out into this Middle Eastern palm room. And of course, the question is, which my favorite room? It absolutely is the palm room. And now we go to a kitchen. It wasn't a Neil Reed kitchen, it's a Callaway kitchen with stainless steel and the latest and greatest linoleum floor. It's done well, and we can say that about the entire space here.
While the first floor rooms appear as they did when Alice Hand Callaway passed away in 1998, the family asked that several of the 8 second-floor rooms be restored to earlier dates.
A restoration is taking place in Jane and Alice's, the Miss Callaway's bedroom. It's not at all like Mr. Callaway's bedroom, a whole different charm, a whole different nature. But they're taking that particular room, the colors, the finishes that were there when the last Miss Callaway quit the room, and turned this to the foundation and for everyone in the community and the world that might come here to enjoy and see the Southern living of the 20th century.
Room after room, the charm and freshness has been restored.
Wow, I think they've really got a gem as far as this for an educational too.
Following 12 months of careful planning and over 1 year of work on restoration and preservation projects, visitors are now invited to explore all floors of this remarkable house, a 20th century masterpiece executed on a pleasing scale.